You know that girl who gets everything she wants, who has everyone, including the universe, at her feet and wrapped around her finger. The girl who keeps getting princess treatment while you're over here asking for the bare minimum. Well, you're about to become that girl, because by the end of this video, you will understand what makes the world respond to her differently. Welcome back to It Girl Secrets. Today we're revealing the secret of making the world rise to your level by breaking down the psychology of how your standards affect your life. The psychology of why some girls are effortlessly lucky, respected, admired, and others struggle to be taken seriously. And no, it's not looks, confidence, or luck. It's something much more powerful. Sounds crazy, but let me explain. I had this one friend who was effortlessly lucky. I'm talking guys would buy her designer bags, AirPod Maxes, plane tickets, take her on trips. Multiple people would send her giant flower bouquets on Valentine's Day without her even having to ask or do anything in return. She would also often end up in lucky situations like being offered double pay, special treatment, and modeling opportunities. You'd think she was drop dead gorgeous, but she wasn't. She looked good, but she didn't fit society's typical beauty or body ideal. Catching up with her before we went our separate ways upon graduation got me thinking, why do some girls get princess treatment and others struggle to get basic respect? Because admit it, you see this all around you. The answer comes down to standards, but not in the way people usually think. There are 3 components, and most people only understand the first one. Let's start with what I like to call the filter. This friend I had a very clear standard for how she expected to be treated. When you have a standard for how you should be treated, you filter out anything that doesn't give you that treatment. You stop giving access to people who can't meet you there. Because the truth is, people who get princess treatment don't magically change the frat bro Chad who's been bumming around, asking girls to pay for him, and washing his bed sheets once a year. Not even the luckiest girl in the world can do that. They simply don't even pay attention to Chad. They go for someone they already know meets their standards. Standards don't transform people, they select them. This is not even about dating. Dating is just the easiest example to see. The filter works for everything. Standards quietly shape the decisions you make long before the results show up because of something called the self-fulfilling prophecy. Take a second and let your bestie with bachelor's degree in psychology explain this, because this part really matters. In simple words, the self-fulfilling prophecy means that whatever you believe about yourself and the world becomes your reality, not because of magic, but because of the way our brains work. When you believe something, you start to notice opportunities and take actions that align with it. Think when you're hungry and all of a sudden food is everywhere. You notice restaurants, food ads, someone eating pizza in the show you're watching, and suddenly, what is that smell? The restaurants and pizza didn't suddenly multiply. You just started noticing them more. Why? Because when you're hungry, that's what your brain thinks is important and starts noticing it more. When you set a standard, you signal to yourself, this is important to me, which makes you notice it. And then if you truly believe you deserve it, take action to fulfill it. Standards tell your brain what matters, what to notice, and what no longer gets your energy. When you set a standard, you make it your self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't just filter out what no longer meets it, you also start to notice opportunities that move you towards what does. But the crucial part of the first component, the part that most people miss, is that invisible standards are often shaping your life without you even realizing it. And that's exactly why people end up unhappy, receiving the treatments they never agreed to. For instance, if you want a successful life, a power couple dynamic, respect, stability, why do you keep going for broke, plant-smoking guys? If you know you want to be ahead in life and rich, why are you focusing your energy on being popular in high school and not on your university applications or starting something for yourself? Sometimes the reason you end up with a life or treatment you never asked for is because you're not conscious of the standards you have have that are shaping your life, standards you're living by, even if you never consciously chose them. But it can all backfire unless you include the third component, which we'll get into in a second. But first, let's talk about the part of standards that makes everyone step up to your level. Something I've talked about in my Maddie Perez analysis. Ever notice people don't just disrespect you immediately, they test you first. They're seeing what you will and will not let slide, because that's how they learn how to treat you. The people who have standards aren't afraid to step away if someone stops meeting them. Maddie is a great example of this. And while this plays out on screen, the exact same dynamic happens in real life. But for illustrational purposes, I'll use Maddie. Maddie has a clear standard for what she wants. She expects people she dates to pay for her, bring her flowers and gifts, and she expects her friends to be loyal and supportive. And if someone doesn't meet her bar, Maddie isn't afraid to cut ties. Maddie doesn't argue for respect, she simply removes the access, which forces people who want to stay in her life to rise to her level, and oftentimes makes the ones who didn't step up at first and lost her come back having changed their behavior. This applies everywhere. Work, opportunities, friendships. I would constantly attract people who wanted me to pay for them or suck my energy dry, constantly complaining about their lives and never paying attention to whether I needed something, feeling entitled to my time, energy, help without ever giving anything back. I had to realize that wasn't meeting my standard for friendship and leave. Standards only work when they're enforced through action, not explanation. But always be wary of those people who try to come back into your life pretending like they're aligning with the standard while actually trying to simply work around it, going right back on where they came from as soon as you let them back in your life. But here's the third component, something that most people miss, and it's that standards are reflected. What do I mean by that? You can't have high standards for the world if your own standards for yourself are low. The world treats you like a reflection of how you treat yourself. If you neglect yourself, break your own word, don't respect your time, or settle in your life, people notice. And as a reflection, they won't feel the need to value you either. You need to have a standard for yourself and believe that you're worth it. Treat yourself like someone valuable and the world will follow. If you expect the world to treat you like a princess, but think, act, and treat yourself like less, the world will reflect that back to you, because whatever you believe about yourself shapes your subconscious tendencies and cues that you send to others. But there are 3 more things that are just as important as standards to make you successful. Things that are reflected in the iconic designer Coco Chanel's mindset. If you want to know what they are and uncover the power that makes you not the follower but the trend, and took Coco Chanel from an orphan in a French village with nothing to her name to the founder of one of the most iconic fashion brands, go to my Coco Chanel mindset video next. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I think I'm gonna be posting this after New Year. In that case, Happy New Year's, and I love you guys so much. I'm tired of yapping, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!